If you have a debit card or do any type of online banking, please watch this video.
All of my money was just stolen.
Because I have like almost nothing in my bank account.
Her savings drained in the span of 4 hours. It all started after she received a late-night phone call.
Let me tell you about a scam so that you don't also fall for it through and have your bank accounts drained.
Bank of America let a scammer take $3,900 from me.
Alright, so today's video is all about bank scams and how you can stay safe.
Let me tell you about a scam so that you don't also fall for it through and have your bank accounts drained. I'm literally crying outside of Wells Fargo right now. I got a call from a Wells Fargo number saying that I had fraudulent activity on my account and that a random person was being sent money from Zelle in like big numbers that were stressful to hear. I've never used Zelle, and so this like freaked me out, and they told me to go onto my account and that I needed to secure my Zelle on my end by sending money that would go back to my account right after. And like looking back on it, I literally feel like an old person that fell for a stupid scam. Like I feel so dumb. So I did everything that they said to do, and they literally drained my bank account. And I felt like it was sketchy the whole time,
And so, two things here. It's not just old people that are getting scammed. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess we all, lose a little bit of logic when we become more irrational once money is involved, right? Now, think about a time when maybe you lost some money. Did you become a little bit more irrational? It's that fear inside of you that makes you lose your cool. So if you get a call from your bank, now there are some banks, and I was just setting up with my bank account, and they said, how would you like to receive your alerts? Would you like to receive your alerts via email or via text or via phone call? So I would really implore that you get on your phone. You're probably on your phone watching this right now. You can listen and do this as I'm talking. But go to your alerts section on the app of your phone or log onto the computer and make sure like, hey, I only have text alerts. I only have email alerts. I think, you can get snail mail, but that's already, you're compromised by then. So really make sure that you are doing your due diligence on this. And then the second part is, she said it felt sketchy the whole time. Trust your gut. A good customer service agent is not going to be miffed by you hanging up the call, right? Or saying, I don't trust this. I'm just going to call you back, right? I'm going to call the number on the back of my card, on the, search the hotline on Google, whatever. Because, so red flag number one, right, is if you tell them, this doesn't feel safe, this feels sketchy, a good customer service agent will be like, okay, just call me back, or, another representative will help you. That's what should happen, right? So you call your actual bank's number and then they will tell you your information. It's not you really repeating that information back unless it's like, what are the last 4 digits of your card or, stuff that qualifies you as a person, your social security number. Banks will ask for that stuff, but make sure when you're giving that sensitive information that you are the one who called them. Okay, please do not give someone who called you sensitive information. Please don't be embarrassed. You are so brave to share this story to warn others. That's another thing. These people who are sharing their stories on how they got scammed or there's fraud. I can't even imagine that happening. Like I would say I was scammed, but I was robbed. When I went to Thailand, this is completely different. So I understand to a certain extent having your money stolen from you, because I literally had it stolen from me by a tuk-tuk driver. They took $300. If you want to hear more of that story, let me know, but it's a little bit painful. First step on Thailand, got robbed, but whatever. This happened to me, drained all of my money, ruined my life, but it was eventually taken care of. I'm thinking of you, sorry that happened. Going forward, always hang up and then call the bank yourself. I'm so sorry this happened. And this is another thing. I don't answer a single call anymore. They don't leave a message, then it obviously wasn't that important. That's other life advice to live by. Just do the millennial thing and don't answer calls. I think Gen Z is even worse. They don't even really answer texts. You know how many Gen Z friends I have as a Gen Z? And they are the worst texters of all times. We just send reels or TikToks back and forth. The communication is done. I can only imagine how Gen Alpha is gonna be. But again, do not answer those calls. Google the number while it pops up on your screen. But if it sounds sketchy, hang up.
If you have a debit card or do any type of online banking, please watch this video. Last night, I got a call from my bank's phone number. I picked up the phone and they told me, this is the fraud department. We saw some potentially fraudulent activity on your card and we wanted to confirm that these purchases were in fact you. They ran through a list of purchases that were apparently trying to be made on my card for $300, $700, and $1,000. And when they listed each one, they had me say unauthorized or authorized to indicate whether or not I made those purchases. Then they said they looked at my savings account and saw that somebody was trying to do a member-to-member transfer for $2,500 from my savings account, and the transfer was labeled hair. I said, no, that wasn't me. And then I asked, okay, can you guys just lock my entire account? Like, just lock my account so nobody can make any changes to it. They said, yes, we're just going to have to verify a few things first. They said they were going to send me a code via text and I needed to read it back to them. The code wasn't sending. I wasn't getting any code. So then they said, okay, can you verify the amounts, the dollar amount in your checking account and your main savings account? I had done something similar with another bank to verify my identity. So I didn't think anything of it. So I said, yeah. And I gave them the number. So then they said, okay, now we just need to change your login information so nobody can access your account. And then they gave me a login to use. They called it a system generated login. At this point, I was starting to get sketched out, but I continued and I changed my login to the one that they gave me. And then they wanted me to change my password to a password that they gave me. And I said, no, I've given you a lot of information. I need to know that this is actually my bank before I do anything further. I said, can I speak to another human at this bank to just verify that it's you? And the person said, yes, I will transfer you to my manager. The manager picked up, sounded super professional, even gave me an ID number for himself, like at the company. He said, I know everything that's been going on. I know you want to lock your account. We just have to go through this verification process so that we can do. So once again, he started trying to send codes to me and I started getting them from my bank's like text automated number. Like from an automated text number that I have gotten messages from my bank before. So I was like, okay, this is my bank. And I kept going. This is where they fucked up. They sent me a code with a message that said, my bank agent will never ask for this code. Do not share it with anybody. And I read that and I said, sir, this says that my bank will never ask for this code. Why are you asking for it? He said, this is the proper procedure to lock your account and protect you from being held liable for any of the purchases that are trying to be made. So at this point I said, I need to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is you. I need you to verify your identity right now. And he said, if you look at the number I'm calling you from, it matches the number on the back of your card. I said, that's not enough verification for me. I know phone numbers can be cloned. I said, I'm hanging up. I'm calling my bank and talking to whoever picks up about this fraudulent activity that you're saying is happening. He said, ma'am, it's after hours. Nobody's going to pick up. Well, my mother, who had called my bank, was simultaneously talking to somebody. As soon as I told them that, they hung up. This was a really legit and thought through scam. Be careful out there, you guys.
Number one rule I have is I never give information to an incoming call. I will contact them myself or go to the bank in person. That's my number one rule now. Something similar happened to me a few years ago. I couldn't believe I fell for it. I couldn't believe I fell for it, but it sounded legit and came from my bank's number. And especially in the beginning, I can only imagine when spoofing first came out, like you would never expect someone to be able to disguise a phone number. And it is really criminal that our cell phone companies somehow allow this, but that's another topic for a different day.
Because I have like almost nothing in my bank account.
Her savings drained in the span of 4 hours. It all started after she received a late night phone call. The caller ID showed it was Scotiabank, where she's a customer.
Then they start to talk about the fact that there has been a charge on my file, on my credit card, and then they confirm my credit card number.
Cumberbatch had received a very similar call years before when her credit card was in fact compromised.
He never asked for a password, but he said, oh, I'm in here now, I'm freezing your account.
Her account wasn't frozen, it was drained through a series of transactions. The fraudsters even called the bank to increase her spending limits.
When they were pulling out money from ATMs, they were going to dollar stores and buying like $3,000 worth of items, pouring it via e-transfers out of the savings account in like multiple different directions.
All behavior unlike anything in her nearly 20 years as a customer. Cumberbatch said Scotiabank had been sending alerts, but to an old email address, not the one she says was registered to her account. Even so, she says,
all these alerts come out and nothing is done. I know that they record all conversations, so that conversation can be pulled up. They said it was over 10 hours that somebody did not look at your account.
When we reached out for a response, Scotiabank said they don't comment on client matters. A spokesperson saying we take cases of fraud seriously, continue to educate clients to never share passwords, payment cards, PINs, or account access with any individual. They directed us to their website, warning customers about the specific bank impersonation scam, a scam with a growing list of victims from multiple banks. But it's the response to these scams Cumberbatch has issue with, saying to date, Scotiabank refuses to answer her questions.
What does it take for an account to be frozen? Like, how is this keeping with my method of spending? What are your anti-fraud protection, like, protocols and strategies? And how did they miss this?
She says laws in Canada need to strengthen to make banks more accountable and transparent, and she's not alone. Anti-fraud intelligence consultant Vanessa Iafola says the way things stand now,
it's really up to us as individuals, mostly, to protect ourselves. This isn't to say that financial institutions don't care about security, but their first concern is their own security. And sometimes that means that consumers are left on the hook.
Consumers like Cumberbatch, who says the bank declining her refund isn't the reason she's speaking out.
This was $41,000 taken out over 4 hours. And I don't know what could scream fraud more. And your automated anti-fraud is picking it up. And nothing was done. So no, we probably wouldn't be here if they called and we went over what happened. Because then I could go, okay, I see, I understand. Things are going to improve. I don't feel that way. now I'm like, do I keep my money under a bed? Like what is safe?
Everyone's saying banks don't call you. Yes, they do, but they won't ask you for your password or user ID, period. I worked at a bank for 15 years. Exactly. They aren't going to ask for this personal information. I'm pretty sure. Again, it's weird because different banks conduct business differently, but they do call you, but it's always safe to say, I'll just call you back. Or check your app to see if there's an alert, something like that. Do your due diligence first. First off, I don't answer phone calls, so I'm good. I've gotten calls on my cell phone from my cell phone. Could you imagine getting a call on your cell phone from your cell phone? Terrible.
All of my money was just stolen. Today I was the victim of phone fraud. Somebody called saying that they were from my bank, from the fraud department of my credit card, that there were fraudulent charges on my card. He verified them, asked me if I did them, and I said no, and then he said, okay, I'm gonna cancel your card right away, like, I'm gonna help you out, don't worry about it. He somehow already had access to, like, see my transactions on that card, so he went through, like, the most recent ones, and asked me, like, is this legitimate, is this legitimate? I was like, yes, like, that I know. And then he somehow got access to, I didn't give him any passwords, nothing. He, like, already had stuff. He just asked me for, like, normal verification questions. And he was somehow able to access my account, and he wiped my checking and my savings clean. I've reported it to BMO fraud, and I'm going to the police station now to report it as well. Just be so careful when people call you. Please, just be careful.
Always hang up and call your bank back personally. I worked at a bank call center, and when people would think I was scamming them, I'd say, okay, call the number on your card and have them transfer you. That is exactly what a customer service representative should be doing, okay? Not making you feel guilty. Well, we're gonna lose all of this information. No, they want your information to steal from you. Be very wary of text with a code. They could be trying to access your account online, and you're giving them the code for two-factor authentication. That's another thing. You completely bypass two-factor authentication if you're giving someone your code. You might as well have just given them your password at that point, which would require the two-factor, but still.
On Fox tonight, a 21-year-old college senior loses all of his money in a scam involving Wells Fargo, and the bank says they will not give him his money back. Fox 26's Randy Wallace has this exclusive.
Wells Fargo says it empathizes with victims of financial scams, but customers who answer spoofed calls and do what they are told will not get their money back.
So I had gotten a call from a Wells Fargo number, and they told me that there was a purchase in California for $899, and they pretty much asked me if I had authorized this transaction, if it was me. I had said no.
They said in order to make sure that your account is secure, we need you to do some things and secure your money. So they began to walk him through moving all of his money from savings, took his money from savings and put it in his checking account. And then once he put it in his checking account, they told him to transfer it to basically his Apple Wallet.
They manipulated me into getting the card off my phone, which I didn't realize they were doing. And as soon as that happened, that's when they hung up on me.
He believed that the individuals he was talking to was truly indeed representatives from Wells Fargo.
What's Wells Fargo telling you?
Nothing. They closed the case July the 3rd and said there was nothing they could do.
How do you feel about this?
I feel sorry for my son. You know, he's done everything he's supposed to. He's been a great kid, a strong-minded individual, God-fearing child, and a great student.
$4,400 is a lot of money to lose when you're in college.
It's a lot of money for anybody to lose, sir.
That's true. That's very true.
Yes,
You're right.
It's a tough blow.
I was already working at a hospital getting, I guess, experience for, I'm trying to go into PT school, so I was getting experience for that. But I had to put my personal training certification in use and go get a personal training job. So as of now, I'm working a personal training job at 5 o'clock in the morning and then going straight to the hospital to work.
He said, Dad, it's money, he said, but God's got a plan.
Wells Fargo says it never texts or calls about possible fraudulent transactions. The bank has a lot of good tips. We've got them for you on our website. Randy Wallace, Fox 26 News.
First mistake was banking with Wells Fargo. And Wells Fargo did have a lot of fraudulent activities that their own employees did. Do you guys remember that? How fraudulent Wells Fargo was? I still bank with Wells Fargo, but like for my credit cards and just cycle through, right? is what it is. This is happening more and more, and I don't understand why banks are not held responsible. My daughter lost $3,000 with her bank, and they refused to refund her money and even took more money from her so that she could pay them back. That's another thing. If they take your money out, and this is another, I think is a scam from the banks itself, is with like overdraft fees or not having enough money in your account. So if they drain your account, sometimes there's a threshold that you need within your checking or savings account, and then they will take money as like a maintenance fee. Huh? You literally take the money from our checking or savings accounts and you use that to invest. So you're technically still saving, or you're like low-key kind of stealing from us and using that money that is in our accounts, right? But it's not really there, but it's there when you ask for it, right? And they're using it to invest.
About a fraud so clever that it could happen to any of us.
$137,000 is a loss nobody can absorb. Chase Bank is still investigating to see if it can recover any of the funds, but that money's likely overseas. Scott and Kate Zoll want you to know what happened to them so that it doesn't happen to you.
So there were 11 wire transfers in total, 2 on our personal accounts, 9 on our business accounts. We lost close to $140,000.
How devastating is that for you, Kate?
Every day we just wake up and feel like we're living kind of a nightmare right now.
What happened to Scott and Kate Zoll began with a text to Scott's phone, supposedly from Chase Alerts, asking, did you attempt to send a wire transfer for the amount of $4,500?
At that point, before I did anything else, I reached out to my business partners and asked if they had initiated a wire. They had not, so I then called the bank branch to see if they could see any activity on my account.
That was smart. Chase Bank immediately gave him the number to its fraud department. But what happened next was his big mistake.
At that point, I acknowledged the text that came through, said no, we did not initiate this wire. Got a text back immediately saying somebody from the Chase fraud team will be in contact with you. Probably within 30 seconds, I received a phone call from the exact number that the branch had just given me.
What Scott never guessed is the call from Chase Alerts saying a representative will be contacting you shortly was actually the scammers who had spoofed the Chase fraud number, leaving Scott to think he was talking with Chase Bank.
And at one point, I even called the Chase line because the phone number dropped, and I called the Chase fraud line. And I was frustrated with actual Chase because they couldn't see the conversations that were happening. And within a minute, the people that were scamming us actually called back, and I'm like, great, these people know what they're talking about. I'm going to go back to this call.
Scott isn't sure how, but says the scammers already had his bank account number and knew how much money he had. All they needed from Scott was a one-time passcode that he did in fact receive via text from real Chase, only to then unwittingly share it with the scammer who was pretending to be Chase Bank. That phone call would cost him $137,130.
Just wake up and start all over again to try to accept that all our money's gone. And I'm not hopeful at this point in the journey that we're going to see any of it again.
If you're wondering about FDIC insurance up to $250,000, that doesn't apply to scams. That only helps if your bank has gone out of business. The Zolls say they're frustrated with Chase Bank. It took 11 days for them to get a case manager, and that was only after the problem solvers called Chase.
It happened to me, very similar. You have to get an attorney. There are no bank laws to protect us. Banking attorneys represent the bank. I hope you have an attorney friend. You need one the minute it's stolen. See, I've never heard of suing the bank. I could only assume that banks have the best attorneys since they are the custodians of wealth. My mom wanted to wire transfer $2,700 and had to go personally to the bank, sign like 5 different things, then had to wait for a manager to come over. That's another thing. They have these limit checks within the banking system, and as a former auditor, I would audit to see if this was in fact within a banking system. So there are things called limit checks. So when someone is requesting, like for example, with mortgage loans, if there's a mortgage that's under, let's say $250,000, they might not need as many approvals and authorizations as something that's over $250,000. And then when it gets to over $1 million, you're going to need even more authorizations, like maybe from the actual, director or someone even higher up than a manager.
There's this new bank fraud scam going around.
This happened to me a few weeks ago, and I'm not going to lie, they almost had me in the first half. So I want to run through what they said because I'm sure that these people use a script and would say similar things to other people. I'm also going to add red flags over here. There are some that I probably could have picked up on a little sooner, but you live and learn. So they gave me a call from my bank's phone number, and it was like 9 p.m. at night on a Friday night. Red flag, but so they said that they had some fraudulent charges that they needed to verify if they were mine or not. Of course, I'm always suspicious, but this person had my name. And then they asked me to confirm my address, but they had my address. I did not give them any information, which if you go back a few videos, you can see where I found someone's address who's like not on the internet at all. So anyone can find that.
It's actually very scary, especially for American citizens, how easily people can find your address. Our government seems to make it super easy. You know, all those sponsorships you probably see for like Incogni or other data security agencies who are like, well, on the behalf of you, those agencies will ask those third-party websites to remove your data. Because if you just search your name, you can probably find your address if you keep clicking the next page enough. And if you're one of those unlucky souls where it's like, I mean, like, I think this is also a remnant from when we had, you know, yellow pages and white pages where there were the addresses and your phone number and stuff. We don't need that, especially in this digital age where privacy is such a concern. It's absolutely disturbing. But you can pay someone a fee every month to make sure that your data's rubbed off of the internet. That being said, most people do use Google, right? Some people use the duck one, or like, I don't know who's using Bing search, but within Google, and I think I'll just show a screen recording as I'm talking through this here, is you can go in and request that, hey, whenever, you know, my name, Johnny Appleseed Smith, is brought up on the internet, please alert me, and, you know, my other personal details such as my phone number, my email, johnnyapplesmith@gmail.com, please report that back to me, and then I can review and ask you to delete it, because Google does delete it for you. And if you're a part of like the EU, you have stronger protections there.
Stuff. So then they said they had a couple charges from like Best Buy in Florida. I said, no, they weren't mine. They said, okay, great. We'll get everything going to get you a new card out in the mail. We'll get this resolved, blah, blah, blah. At this point, I ask for his name. He gives me his name and his employee ID number and a confirmation number. So it's all sounding like pretty legit so far. But then he said, okay, I gave you this confirmation number. I'm going to send you a text with a second confirmation number about 24 hours from now. Huge red flag, no. So here's something I thought was weird. They said, well, so-and-so, this name is using an iPhone 6 to place these orders. Do you know this person? I said, no. And then they said, well, do you have an iPhone 6? And at that point, I'm like, why would a bank need to know what kind of phone I had? And I don't know if they could use that for anything else, but then I just...
Yep, trust your gut.
So I'm like, you know, it's been so long since I've gotten a new phone. I don't know what model number it is.
Like, why would they even need you to know that? Why would they even need to know that?
So finally, this has been like 5-minute phone call. He says, okay, ma'am, well, in order to process this, we need to verify that we're actually talking to the person who owns this account. What is your account's username? So at this point, I know, right? But I want to mess with him a little bit. So I'm like, you know, I don't have it.
And this is perfect. She's putting all of the red flags perfectly in place. Asking for your account info, I'm pretty sure they should know that. Also, just never give anyone your username or your password. Like, one of the things that they tell people on YouTube in order to prevent your account from being stolen, because a lot of YouTube accounts have been stolen this way, is do not put your actual email address that you use for your own YouTube account. You can do so much with just an email. It's you would think in this digital age it's more secure, but no. It's getting worse, to be honest.
I'm going to have to call the bank back tomorrow morning and figure this out, because I don't know off the top of my head. And then he gets real urgent. He's like, well, ma'am, if you don't have it right now, if you can't give me that information, all of this work that we just did will be lost. Your card is still compromised. They could still use it. It's not shut down, blah, blah, blah. So I say, you know, I'm willing to take that chance, and I'll call the bank back during their normal business hours tomorrow. And then he said, well, ma'am, can't you see that I'm calling from your bank? I'm using the bank's phone number. To which I replied, that doesn't mean anything. And then I hung up. I called the bank back in the morning just to make sure there was nothing else weird going on, but there was no fraud on my account, no weird charges, anything. Numbers can be spoofed to look like your friends, family, businesses that you interact with. So if you're ever in doubt, hang up, call the number back, and that will get you the right person.
It is absolutely, were you taking notes? Because it's absolutely critical that you know these off the top of your dome. Just breathe in, breathe out, and then if anything sounds sketchy, just hang up the call. If you don't feel safe, remove yourself from the situation.
Bank of America let a scammer take $3,900 from me. Through my school, I have been pursuing an internship that I have been trying to get, a student study work position, for maybe 2-3 months now. In person, I had been in contact with the person who's responsible for said internship. After a couple of months, we've been emailing back and forth, and it looked like it was a legitimate internship. They ended up reaching out to me saying, we have the position available. During this whole transaction, the person ended up saying that they have to review the HR paperwork. Mind you, in person, I had already submitted some HR paperwork with my social security and everything. So long story short, after back and forth with this person confirmed that I would get the internship, which I was told also in person. This person sent me 2 checks, one for $3,000 and one for $900. Initially, I got the $900 and they said that, and I specifically remember them saying, this money is for the equipment, basically a computer. and it's for any type of monitors and cables that you need for your work study. I honestly went over my head. I didn't think much of it. They said deposit it into your account, and shortly we'll send a representative your way to be able to reach out and get, the transaction going so that you can get started with your work study. I was over the moon. I was like, wow, this is the best experience ever. And this person reached out to me again with the logo of my school. So I'm thinking this is all going through the school. I don't know why I didn't think it was fishy, but I can show you screenshots and messages that it looked legitimate. This person had me process the transaction, and they said that I would receive the computer and everything in a couple of days. The next day, they sent me another check that had $3,000 on it, and I thought it was fishy. So I reached out to a person on campus that I trust, who's our student service representative. Lo and behold, it was a fraud situation. But during the first transaction of the $900, my bank, the only one time they denied the check. So I thought that was weird. But when I went to deposit it again, the next morning, the money was there. So here I am, thinking in good faith that we're okay to make this transaction. This is a legitimate thing, has a school logo, and the person that I looked up that was emailing me back and forth that showed verified had a LinkedIn attachment, and you click on the LinkedIn and it looked like that person was in fact a director at the same institution at a different location. Once I received the $3,000, I obviously thought it was really fishy because I'm like, this is way too much money for equipment, especially for a temporary position. So when I reached out to the student service representative, she ended up telling me that's a scam, don't reply. And I said, well, great. I get on the phone with Bank of America, I'm telling them my situation, and it's getting ugly really fast. During my phone call with Bank of America, I repeatedly said, this person was impersonating somebody from my school that's a director. I was on hold for over an hour. I didn't get to anyone, so I decided to go in person to Bank of America. One of the ladies there, her name was Cynthia. I'm not going to say her last name for security reasons. She was fantastic. She was just so accepting of my situation. I showed her all the documents. I showed her everything, and she was so helpful. She gave me the exact steps I needed to take in order to reach the fraud department, and I did. After filing for fraud and after filing for everything accordingly, I got a letter that said I was denied. Obviously, you can understand my frustration because I had just recently also gotten paid within that time frame, and because of the whole fraud, they took $900 from my account and it caused my account to go into the negatives. My paycheck from my actual job got deposited and it completely swallowed it. I got a letter from the school, and in that letter it states that multiple students were also scammed for their social security, for their bank accounts, for personal information. And so I wasn't the only student. I have that letter. I have every email showing that I thought this was a legitimate person. Bank of America has not helped me at all. I have been on the phone with them multiple times. I went to 2 branches. The first branch I went to, Cynthia was amazing. I loved her. She made me feel so seen and just helped me throughout my situation. The second time I went to a bank, I was so mad. I started crying in person. This person who stated that she was an assistant manager, I walked in. She was trying to help me. She said to take a seat. I took a seat. I was waiting there 45 minutes. 45 minutes I waited. After the 45 minutes, I kind of got tired and I turned around. She was just standing there on her tablet welcoming people in. So I turned around and I said, can I ask you a question? She said, yes. And I explained my situation. I said, what do I do? Who do I need to talk to? Is there a senior banker? Is there a manager I can speak to? At this point, I'm desperate. I am not joking. Hand on the Bible. This assistant manager told me, at some point in time in our lives, we have to take accountability for our actions, and there are going to be consequences for every action we take. I was furious. I literally started crying because I had no idea what to say. I did not expect that response. I don't know what I was expecting, to be honest with you, but it definitely wasn't that response. So if anybody can help me with the situation, and just let me know what to do, because I literally am at a loss. I've been trying to get in contact with Bank of America. They are not responding to me. I repeat, Bank of America is the worst bank ever. They are not responding to me. They're saying that it's completely my fault. I have proof. I have letters. I have emails. I have people who can vouch for me. I have other students who are also affected by this. My school is doing everything that they can to be able to let financial institutions know that their students were affected by this. I'm at a complete loss. I have no idea what to do. And I've tried, like I said, reaching to Bank of America, and Bank of America keeps denying me. They keep denying me, and they close the case. I don't know what to do. So TikTok, please do your thing, and please, please, please help me get this viral, do something, because I am at a level of frustration that it's just, I don't know what to do. To make matters worse, my job, we just got paid again on Friday, and I basically didn't receive a paycheck because the bank is holding the money. So I've been a complete month without being able to pay anything. My credit cards, my car bills, my student loans, everything has just been completely on pause. So if anybody has any advice, I will gladly take you up on it.
This has nothing to do with Bank of America. Any bank, actually. Unfortunately, you were scammed and you participated in the scam. The bank cannot get you the money back because funds were not real. So who do you expect to take the loss for you? The bank? Honey, no. See, I get this person has to take accountability for not really understanding that they were scammed, and it is sad that there aren't really protections for scams. It's really just fraud. And so there is unfortunately a difference between a scam and fraud. I call these bank scams, but they really are. It's a mix of both scams and fraud within this video. So scams, it's on you, right? You voluntarily gave your money to the scammer, whereas fraud is like a fraudulent transaction. Someone took your credit card, for example, and made unauthorized charges to your card without your knowledge, right? Without your voluntary consent. And even though it's kind of funny because you would think you can like rescind that consent when you get scammed, but you can't. Unfortunately, that's just how the world works. And it sucks, but that's just how it works. And you have to take accountability for getting scammed and not getting scammed again. Unfortunately for you, this has nothing to do with the bank. You were scammed, you processed the transaction, the money was used. So how exactly is the bank responsible? Bank lady was right. You need to take accountability and move on. Unfortunately, that's just the name of the game. Like for example, in romance scams, if you're sending your life savings over, the bank is gonna be like, that really sucks, but we're not going to cover that money, because then that creates more of an incentive for even more romance scams. Oh my goodness, could you imagine? Or just like other scams to develop. So it's really a crappy situation.
I want to share a story with you about something that happened a few days before Christmas, and with the hopes that you will share this with all your loved ones, your parents, grandparents, kids out there, so you are not victims of a crime like we were. A few days before Christmas, my mom received a telephone call from Wells Fargo Bank. They spoofed the Wells Fargo number. So she has banked with Wells Fargo for 52 years. She's very familiar with their 1-800 number. And the call came in, caller ID from that 1-800 number. Answered the phone call, and Wells Fargo said, the person posing as Wells Fargo said, "This is Wells Fargo Fraud Department. We want to verify if you made any of these purchases in Texas," right? Right. To which she hadn't made. They listed all these different thousands of dollars of purchases that she had not made. So then they went on to say, well, we need to protect your account, and in order to protect you from this fraud that's about to take place, we need to verify that it's you and do some protective measures. At that point, they started sending her the code from Wells Fargo that they wanted her to read back. And she, the whole time, is thinking this is the fraud department trying to help her from these charges that were about to, charges or wires?
Well, it was charges.
Charges that were about to take place.
Yes.
And so gave them the verification code, and to which then they were able to gain access of all of her accounts in Wells Fargo, and added themselves as wire recipients, putting her name as the nickname on the wire, so the wire would look like it was going to Judy, but it wasn't, and wired out $49,000 wires until they drained every cent that she had. And they did the 49,000 because at 50 you cannot do an online wire, 50 or more, so they did 49,000 and just multiple of them. Once this was happening, she was getting kind of that spider sense of a feeling, right? That just something didn't seem right. But again, with all intent, she thought that these people were trying to protect her from Wells Fargo. Called me, and I said, hang up with me right now, call Wells Fargo directly, call them and let them know what's going on. And so they had, as soon as I got her phone call, I drove over to her place, and what they had done also is forwarded all her cell phone calls by having her do *72 or something, saying that they needed her to do something on her phone. This forwarded all the calls to this other number. I imagine they do that in case Wells Fargo actually tries to call her, that it goes to that other number, but I don't believe, on looking at the call log, that Wells Fargo Fraud Department did try to call her while this was taking place. We have started an investigation. We have filed a police report with the Chula Vista Police Department. We have also filed something with the FBI. We know the bank and the routing number that it went to at Discover Bank. We are hoping that Wells Fargo is doing everything they can in order to get that money back, but every time we call, there's no new information. So please share this with everybody that you know. Obviously, this is not easy, for you feel foolish, but in looking at everything, I mean, they called from that number. And the best thing in speaking with the police department is if ever you receive a phone call, even if it's from an institution that you are familiar with, always hang up and call them back. Even if they try to tell you, oh no, call me directly at this number. You call the number on the back of your card that you are familiar with directly, and usually these people will make you feel a sense of urgency, as they did, that all this money was going to get charged to her account if she didn't act quickly. And unfortunately, they took everything that she had. And so please, again, share it with people that you know, and we hope that this will help some of you out there. Friends and family have reached out because they've been a little concerned about my posts on different social media platforms about trying to connect with FBI and police department and such. And I know I worried, some people with those posts, but we're just trying to find the right people to help us and hopefully retrieve. It was over $100,000 that was taken, that we had money set aside for my dad's care who's on hospice. So share away. Thank you for listening.
If the bank calls, always tell them you'll call them back. Go grab your bank card and call the toll-free number on the back. Never trust an incoming call. Great advice. This is exactly how fraud happens. And one of my friend's sisters, they took $25,000, exactly the same. Oh my goodness, can you imagine? Needs to be a class action lawsuit against all cell phone companies that allow numbers to be so easily manipulated. Yes, for me, the scariest thing is spoofing. Like, I still don't really understand or grasp how people are able to do that. It seems like such a sophisticated thing to be able to do, but a lot of people are able to do it, surprisingly. So if you do fall for one of these scams, it's very unlikely you're gonna get your funds back. I'm very sorry to you if this has happened, but if you're watching this video, you know what to do. Hang up the phone if you feel unsafe.
I got fucking scammed. Wait till you hear the crack. So I'm sitting yesterday, let me set the scene. I'm rushing like fuck, trying to get my makeup done. And I'm halfway putting an eyelash on, and next thing my phone starts ringing and it says no caller ID. And I think to myself, I'm not answering you today. So I didn't bother answering, kept trying to put my eyelash on my eyeball. They hang up after maybe 5 or 6 rings, and then they immediately call again. I thought, that's very urgent, so maybe I'll answer. So I answered, and it's like, hello, this is XYZ from the Santander Fraud Department or something. I was like, red flags, because there's scammers going about these days. So I thought, hold on, can I just stop you right there before we discuss any information? Can I get anything to make sure that this is legitimate? Can you forward me something or anything that the bank would have that could send, make it legit? So he sends me a message with a one-time passcode. Now, if I had any brains in my head, I would have went back and checked my previous one-time passcode message where it always says, we will never ask you for a one-time passcode. Anyway, got a message from, it said Santander at the top, the whole thing. Clicked into it, it didn't have a mobile number, it just said Santander. So I came up and I didn't read it fully, but I was like, oh right, okay, that's good. I got a message from him, he was able to send me that. And then I was like, could I get something else as well? Then he sends me an email. And the email is from a Santander account that had previously emailed me in 2018 when I initially had opened my Santander account. So of course I was thinking this is pure legit because I've previously got emails from these people before. So anyway, that was fine. Then he proceeds with the conversation and he tells me that someone has tried to make a £300 purchase on my account and this is flagged up because it's for timber or something like that. And he was like, and we thought that this was suspicious activity, so we wanted to make sure with you that this was legit. Now when I'm thinking back, I'm like, normally they would send you an email to be like, can you confirm that this is you and all, but anyway, forget about it. I was panicking. And so that was fine. And I was like, oh gosh, no, that's definitely not me. And he was like, and then there was a purchase for $69.99 for Argos as well. Was that yourself? And I was like, no, definitely not me. Haven't bought anything from Argos recently. So then of course I'm like, oh my God, thank God for calling me. Then he starts asking me questions and he's like, have you recently, I just want to do a bit of security checking, have you recently received any strange phone calls and given card details out? I was like, no. He was like, have you downloaded and logged into any strange apps recently? I was like, no. He was like, has anyone asked you to download any strange app? I was like, nope. And then there was one other question, I can't remember what it was. He's like, have you gave your details or bought anything recently that seemed suspicious? And I was like, no. So thing continues on, and then he starts going through all my previous bank things that I have bought on my Santander account and was like, okay, we're just going to go through these. I want you to confirm and deny if this was yourself to make sure that there hasn't been any other fraudulent activity on your account. Goes through them all, and of course I'm sitting here thinking, of course he's from the bank, he's going to have access to all this stuff, obviously. And it was like Amazon Prime, credit union, blah blah blah, all this different stuff that I had paid for. And I was like, yep, that was me, confirm, all good vibes. And he's like, right, okay, so it seems like the suspicious activity has only started today. I was like, right, okay. Then I started asking him, I'm like, do you normally call off a no caller ID? And he was like, yeah, it's normally a secure line and all this here. Of course, me looking back now, I'm like, oh my God, dickhead. And because you can set your own phone as no caller ID. So continues on. He was British as well. It wasn't like he had a foreign twang or anything. He was a British person calling me. And This went on. Next thing then, he's like, okay, just let me put you on hold a second. I just want to check some things. So he puts me on hold. So of course you're thinking even more. I had music and everything. And then as this goes on, he comes back on again and he's like, right, okay, we just have a few more things we need to do to make sure that your card is still safe. And then I'm thinking back now, I'm like, why am I such a dickhead? And he's like, do you still have your card? You haven't lost it or anything? I was like, yes, I still have my card. It's in my possession. He was like, right, okay, I just need the middle 8 digits. He was like, we don't want the first, we don't want the last 4, just the middle 8. So, which I've never thought that would, like, you would think if he'd asked you for the full thing, it would be a bit scary biscuits. But in my head, I was like, all right, everything up till now has been legit. Like, it's felt like so real. So I give him the middle 4 digits off the card. Then he asked me for the back 3. Again, I'm not thinking that this is an issue. Dickhead. And so I give him the 3 on the back, and that's fine. He's like, that's perfect. We're not going to have to do anything with your card. You can keep using that card. But what we'll do is we'll reset your login ID for your mobile banking so you won't have access to that for a few days. I get an email that says, thank you for resetting your login details, which I did not read properly at the time, which obviously means I didn't have access because I didn't know my fucking logins because they had them and they reset them. Anyway, I'm sitting today. Didn't think any more of it yesterday. All good in the hood. I'm sitting with Owen and we're having lunch together, and I was telling him the crack and telling him the thing with phone call because I hadn't got a chance to catch up with him yesterday because I was away at that event. And I was telling him, and then he was talking about one person that this had happened to before, and then they started using his card. Like he didn't even notice because they were only using like small transactions for like Ubers and Uber Eats and stuff, but he hadn't really looked at his bank transactions to notice it. And so basically someone had called him, same sort of situation, and he gave him the details or whatever and just didn't think anything of it. So that was fine. Then I thought maybe I'll just show Owen the messages to make sure that he thinks it's okay. I type in the Santander into my messages and 2 different profiles come up, and I was like, hold on, why has this come from 2 different profiles? Now I'm nervous. And so I tap into the one, and one of them has only the 2 messages that I received yesterday, and the other one has all my previous one-time passcodes. So immediately I was like, that's such a red flag, because why didn't it come from the same Santander number that would normally text me? And the messages that then came from it don't match the same. Like, it was so similar, but there were certain things in it that weren't the same. And so then when I went to the email was weird too, because why was I getting reset logins from an email that was sent me from 2018? And I hadn't received any correspondence from this email since 2018. So that was 5 years. So I was like, no, something's off here. And then I went to go on to my mobile banking app and I couldn't log in. I didn't understand. I was like, no, something's off. So I go and I ring Santander, like the actual Santander, and tell them the crack. And they're like, yeah, they've actually used your account to buy things from Argos yesterday. They spent £30 something in Argos, and then they spent, because I have a different app where I can see this then, so I went into it and checked because all my accounts are in one app called Snoop and I can see them then. Fuck's sake. So, saying that they had spent $69.99 in Argos and 30 something in Argos yesterday after the phone call, £100, but Santander were really, really good. They tried, I was on the phone for about 45 minutes, got cut off, had to ring them again, but they've reset the card, reset the login details, all G, and hopefully I'll get my money back in maybe a couple of weeks' time. But anyway, that's the crack. Don't get scammed like me. Anyway, whatever you do, be aware of the scammers. And Santander said as well that they would never ask you for the one-time passcode. So, and they also would like send you a message if they were going to call you about like fraudulent activity as well. So, if you ever think something's a scam, trust your gut and hang up on them fuckers because they'll probably ring you back. Okay?
I really think it's the employees at the bank that perpetuate these frauds. You know, that would be kind of interesting because they do. And obviously, you know, bank employees do have background checks ran on them. But a majority of, you know, criminals have never committed a crime before until they got caught. And when you're an employee at a bank, you get so much information, right? You could just like write down someone's social security number as they're relaying it back to you over the phone. That's why I personally prefer to go into the bank itself to, you know, report fraudulent transactions, especially when my credit card was compromised last year, so that was something else. But banks need to be held responsible. As consumers, we rely on the security of the bank to help and protect us. If they can't combat this, we shouldn't be held responsible. Yeah, and I do agree with that. And that's just the other thing. It's like, if their number was spoofed, well, whose responsibility is it? Is it the bank's? Is it yours? Obviously, it's all on the criminal conducting this. But again, banks kind of get, in this country, they have a history of getting away with a lot of stuff. So, but let me know your thoughts. Have you ever fallen for one of these bank scams? Have you ever come across one of these bank scams? Do you know anyone that's been scammed? Let me know your thoughts. Like the video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, and I'll see you in the next one.